this freedom of mind that comes even in a moment of a Brahma Vihara, where we are free from ill will, is it transforms our psyche. The Buddha said one moment of metta is worth offering, you know, an immense amount of food, 100 pots of food. It's huge. It's a huge benefit. So with this category you've been working with, it's particularly clear how powerful it can be. Because sometimes when anger is really, really strong and we pervade, we radiate metta, and we persist in that, even if we can't really connect, even if it's just words, there comes a moment when the anger just shatters, it just disappears in a moment. And what's in its place is just tender kindness. And not just to the person who we were radiating, but to everybody. And this is what can happen if the mind drops into that metta as a Brahma Vihara, even just for a moment. It can be so surprising, particularly if it's never happened before. It's like, wow, what happened to that anger? It's just gone. So if this has not happened to you, trust that it can, because it's not a particularly special experience. It's just the mind coming into sync, coming into synchronicity with the metta and dropping into it for a moment or a few moments or longer. And the mind that can do this, we all have it. We all have a mind like this. The nature of the pure mind, as I've said already, is metta. So that's why I say over and over, trust the process. This is where it goes. I want to share a personal story of this because it shows you it's not just theory. It can happen to anybody. And it can happen even if the mind has been totally taken over by anger. My very first Vipassana retreat, the very first morning of the retreat, I had an anger attack. And it wasn't just anger, it was rage about something thoughtless that an acquaintance had just done over breakfast. It was so strong, even just the first morning of one retreat. So I decided, well, metta, even though I'd never really done the practice and I'd only read about it in a book. So I was going back and forth between metta and vipassana as we were all doing walking meditation in a very small room all together. And nothing seemed to be happening to kind of alleviate the anger. It just kept coming back again and again and again. But after some time, and I don't remember exactly how long, but it couldn't have been more than an hour because it was in that first walking period. In a moment, and I still vividly remember exactly where I was, the metta just pushed all of that anger aside. It was a metta bomb, really, truly, it just exploded all the anger. And at the same time, it was a balm, it was healing, so deeply healing, because I had never had that experience before. And the experience was of the anger just completely vanishing and metta coming so strongly, not just for this person who had made me irritated, angry, rageful, but everybody in the room. It was boundless. It was the Brahma Vihara. And I landed in it quite, it was such a surprise. I never thought this was possible. And I knew nothing about any of this. I didn't know about Brahma Viharas. I only knew about anger. It's why I'm sitting here doing what I'm doing, actually, because in that moment I realized, oh, this is really important to cultivate. And in the moment, I took it as something special, but it's not. That was just an ego trip. It's totally not special. Surprising, yes, but not special. This is what metta does. This is the function of metta, to remove anger. And you never know when it's going to come in and just kind of push it all away. So if the practice is just kind of going along in that mechanical way and you don't really feel like you're connecting, but you're coming back again and again and again, please remember to be patient, because you never know if the next moment might be a moment like that. It could be the next moment, or it could be, some other time. But just to rest back and relax into the process is what allows that. So you've spent some time with the difficult category as a taste of the challenge. And today we change to all beings. So all beings as a category is as boundless as the metta. And it's a very open category because we can't connect with each being. We can't even imagine each being. All we can do is rest back and cultivate an open heart towards all beings, whatever, whoever, wherever they are. I love this category. I really do. It's such an easeful category. The main thing to pay attention to is really to notice your effort and to notice if you are trying to connect with all beings, whatever that is. If you're thinking, it can get very heady. So you can lose the ground, the embodied ground of the practice, and it just turns into a head trip with a lot of concentration, because you lose touch with the embodied metta, and it can be very concentrating, but not really connected. So as you do the practice today, remember to stay connected with the body. You can put your hand on your chest. That really helps to remind you that there is a body. It's not just all happening up here. And this is a category where you can work with all manner of beings who are, either beings who you cannot really radiate metta to, such as people who have died, or beings who are just difficult. And you radiating metta to them individually is too challenging. So to rest back in metta for all beings allows us to radiate metta to beings who we've been close to, who have passed on, or beings who we've been close to but aren't anymore because there's something really difficult between us. So just let them be there, somewhere in all beings, and remember that you are also in that same category. So play with the phrase a little bit to see what works for you. So some people say, may all beings, and then whatever the rest of your phrase is. An alternative is, may we, and the rest of the phrase. Or may all of us be. And this explicitly brings yourself in as well as all beings. And we're in there together, common beingness. And this is the place to really remember that, especially with other people, common humanity, common fallibility. We're all not perfect. This really is, we're all in this boat together of life, and may we all be at ease. And because you are alive and I am alive, we share that. We share, just as I want to be at ease, so do you. You know, recognizing that other people have the same wishes as we do. So this can be very helpful with this category and all categories, but this one particularly. So when we sit, again, we'll sit in silence. Begin with a little metta for yourself. And then you can bring in an easy person, and then a neutral person, and then a difficult person. One after another, just bring them into your heart, bring them into the space of metta. Not closing with previous categories, but adding to the group of people in the room. There are lots of ways to begin to radiate metta, to go from one being to many, and this is one that I like very much. And it doesn't have to be, you know, one dear friend. It can be that crowd of dear friends who's been wanting you to radiate metta to them. And then all the neutral people that have been coming to mind that you've had to kind of put off. And whatever difficult people you've had to keep at arm's length, you know, far away. And as you do this, you just repeat the phrase, may all beings be well, happy, and peaceful, or may we all be well, happy, and peaceful, whatever your phrase is. And then eventually letting go of these particular people and just radiating metta for all beings. So you can make that transition by saying, may we and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. Doing that for a little while and then just switching to may all beings. Or just keeping it with, well, may all of us be. And, you know, letting the energy of the metta expand beyond the group that has gathered initially. So one thing I would say is don't try to control this or plan it out. I'll do this for 5 minutes and this for 5 minutes. And no, that's too much trying to control. Just let it happen however it happens. I mean, some people, I'm going to say the opposite, but if you are a person who really needs a plan, it can help to say, okay, for 5 minutes, I'll do this, and 5 minutes, I'll do that, 5 minutes, and so on. But really, that's okay. But see if you can just let the metta flow however it wants to. I mean, it's fine to expand systematically, but sometimes when we do this, the effort can go from being balanced to being too much. And we find ourselves trying to control the process by doing that. So have a vague map of how you're going to do this, but don't force it to be any particular way. Beginning with yourself and gradually expanding out, using the different categories to increase the number of beings, and thereby getting to all beings eventually. That's a lot of words for today. I apologize. Let's settle back into silence and practice together in silence, radiating metta first for ourselves and then different categories and then all beings. Coming to the end of the sitting, remembering continuity and maintaining a connection with the heart, maintaining a connection with the metta. So I wanted to say just a few words this afternoon or this morning for you about metta and wisdom. Metta and insight. It's actually difficult to separate these two. When metta is strong, there is wisdom, and when wisdom is strong, there is metta. But I wanted to point to a particular teaching that really struck me in this regard. Again, going back to the liberation of mind through loving kindness, metta, chitta. So I spoke yesterday about things that lead to the abandoning of ill will and how this leads to that liberation of mind through loving kindness. But there's one teaching in the Samyutta Nikaya that speaks to how this liberation is best developed. And it points directly to the development of metta or the development of metta happens as we develop the enlightenment factors accompanied by this inclination to loving kindness. So the enlightenment factors, just to run down the list. Absolutely. Sati, mindfulness. Dhammavichaya, which is investigation. Virya, energy. Next is piti, or gladness, bliss. Next is passaddhi, tranquility. Samadhi, concentration. And upekkha, equanimity. So these 7 bojjhangas, these factors of enlightenment, we talk about them a lot in the Vipassana practice. And so these are actually, we talk about them in the Vipassana practice, but they're also incredibly important for the development of the liberation of mind through loving kindness and the development of metta as a Brahma Vihara. So this is a really interesting sutta because they're monks that come to the Buddha and they've been talking to people in other sects. And those other people said, oh, well, we develop metta too. You know, what's the difference? And so they're asking the Buddha, it's like, well, what makes what we do different than what they do? So the Buddha gave a fairly long teaching about how to respond. And in terms of, you know, what the point of our practice is, by asking a series of questions. So the first is, how is it developed? And so this is an answer to that question. So the liberation of mind through loving kindness, which is metta as a Brahma Vihara. So developing this is done by actually developing each of these bojjhangas, each of these enlightenment factors, with a mind that is inclining to metta. The Buddha goes through this list saying, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of, say, mindfulness, accompanied so on through the whole list. And then when he gets to the end, when he's talking about equanimity, he throws in this tail end, which is very profound, saying the equanimity accompanied by loving kindness is based upon seclusion, dispassion, being involved emotionally, and maturing in letting go, maturing in release. So, I mean, I could talk about this for a long time, but the thing to remember is very simple.
Potrei parlarne molto a lungo, ma la cosa da ricordarsi è molto semplice.
To develop metta as a Brahma Vihara, to develop the liberation of mind, of loving kindness, we need also to develop each of these enlightenment factors, and with the intention to let go. That's very simple. So letting go of the hindrances, of attachment, letting go of our ideas about the practice, letting go of our identity as a yogi or a Dhammafarer or a meditator, letting go of results, etc., etc. I mean, the list is endless of things to let go of. So, not to get very heady with all this technical information, but just to understand, metta and insight are developed together with the intention to let go. And sometimes the metta is in the foreground, sometimes the insight is in the foreground.
E a volte la metta è in primo piano, a volte è l'insight a essere in primo piano.
And the wisdom that comes through developing these factors of enlightenment is definitely supportive of the development of the metta. We see it in the practice. So that beautiful example that Martine used this morning, I mean, it's exactly that. It's like, so would you be angry at the stick? Would you be angry at the hand? What being is there to be angry at? That's insight, that's wisdom. And it supports the metta. And that question is basically investigation of states, Dhammavichaya. You know, what am I angry at? Accompanied by metta. Or likewise, maybe something happens and we get stuck in some hindrance. And we have in that moment the presence of mind to remember, oh, this is just, don't have to get stuck here. And we can remember, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. This is another example, you know, then we can incline the mind to metta and we don't get stuck in our habitual habit patterns of reactivity. This, no matter how we do it, we don't have to get technical. We just have to remember compassion, remember wisdom. And even if we don't become completely enlightened in this life, where this goes is profoundly good. At the end of this sutta that I talked about, the Buddha said, the liberation of mind through loving kindness has the beautiful as its culmination. So even if we're not completely enlightened in the process, we rest in the beautiful. Purification of mind. So that's all I wanted to say, and I see I've run completely through the question session again. Please forgive me. Those of you who have interviews, you can ask questions during the interview. And so I'll close with the Burmese chant this morning.